Egad, Josh Allen and the Bills appear to be in a free fall.
The thing that's funny, Stephon Diggs and his brother, they're not making it any better. From Wondery, I'm Ryan Shazier.
Not funny to the people up in Buffalo. I'm Dave Damashek.
And this is Gridiron Gut Check.
Welcome to Gridiron Gut Check. Every week, I'm lucky enough to talk ball with two-time Pro Bowler and Steelers legend Ryan Shazier. 5-0, you ready to give my takes a gut check from a player's POV?
Yeah, I think it's important, because sometimes you and fans say some wild stuff, so I'm really excited to chop up about it.
Insightful is the stuff that I say, Shazier. And I'm about to drop something on you right now. I mentioned the Bills, Ken Dorsey, the OC, out the door after the Monday night shaming at the hands of the Denver Broncos. Now Stephon Diggs' brother, Trevon, tweeted out right after the game that the Bills need to move on from Stephon Diggs, or more accurately, Diggs needs to move on from the Bills. First of all, what do you make of this? And two, is Stephon kind of telling his brother, hey, put that out there in social media, or is this just a frustrated sibling on behalf of his brother?
So first off, before we even get to the Stephon, the Diggs situation, Ken Dorsey is on the market as an OC. I promise you that the Pittsburgh Steelers fans will be completely happy if he was our OC next year. No, that's all I'm saying. But secondly, but our offense is looking better. But when you think about it, some brothers, they talk every day and they seem like a very close, they seem very close. And then some brothers is just, they go based off of how they feel. Me and my brother, we talk every day, but we don't talk like ball like that. Even when I played, we didn't talk ball like that. So like if my brother posted something like that, it's more because like that's how he feel. But to me, like even seeing them constantly at each other games, like you see them always training with each other, doing everything together. I feel like they have a good relationship. I don't know if Stephon was like, hey, put this out there, but I think they talked about it and he knows Stephon Pitts and he know that he want to leave. So he just basically was like, hey, my brother is out there suffering. I'm just going to put something in the air because I already know he want to leave. And I know he probably not going to say nothing about it.
Well, I guess the question is, best guess from you, just because you played doesn't mean you have any insight to the Diggs family, but like I say, best guess. Do you think Stephon saw that and said, come on, Trevon, what are you doing, man? And also, the other thing that is funny and will forever be funny, every wide receiver, or 90% of them, have some diva sort of behavior at some point during a football season. Answer my first question, though.
I don't think he said, come on, bro, like right now is not the right time for you to do that. I don't think he did that. I think he probably was just like, hey, Trey, bro, really? And then just kept it moving. I don't think it was more like he already, like, I'm already mad. And then you post that. He's probably like, yeah. He probably felt like, yeah, I feel that way. It just, my brother, the one who posted it, not me. So I think that's kind of how the situation went. Obviously, I'm not in either one of their heads, but I don't think that Stephon was like, hey, I'm mad at you for doing that, because he already said at the beginning of the season that he didn't want to be there. So it's not that surprising to me.
Well, yeah, I think you can kind of do the math and read the tea leaves on that. My pushback to Diggs or anyone else who's unhappy in that locker room and trying to point the finger at Ken Dorsey, you already said he's a good offensive coordinator. The statistics bear out. The offensive team production is there. That's not really the issue. It does feel like he's being scapegoated a little bit, and I would encourage Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, everybody else, to look around. That's a pretty good situation still in Buffalo, despite being 5-5. Moving on, though, a team that's on the rise and may jump the Bills. In fact, in the standings right now, the Texans are ahead of those Bills in the AFC playoff chase, led by CJ Stroud. He won the former Ohio State showdown, not that far away from the big horseshoe in Columbus. In Cincinnati, he went in there, vanquished Joe Cool and company. CJ Stroud, MVP. How's that hit your ear?
So this makes me so mad, Dave, because about 3 weeks ago, the odds were plus 13,000. Plus 13,000. I was like, I got like $100, $200. You know, the $100 that I'm gonna win from
13 to 1 in other words.
Yeah,
right.
13 to 1. Basically, I was just gonna use the money that you was gonna give me because of the Ohio State bet, you know, and put it on CJ Stroud. And I basically was gonna win like almost like 13,000, like almost like $20,000 based off of like that small bet.
By the way, I want to hear your football thoughts. After this, we're going to have a remedial class on prop bets, because I think if you think you're betting $100 and winning $13,000 on that one, you're a little off there. Nevertheless, continue with your thoughts on Stroud.
Let me say this: whatever I was going to put on the bet, $13,000 was on the other side of the bet. That's all I'm saying. It was, but it wasn't.
You're a fancy man. I'm not surprised you go heavy.
No, but it wasn't $1,000. I didn't bet $1,000. So, but what I'm trying to say is, what makes CJ so good is he's really good in and outside of the pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like, he understands coverages. He understands how to move the ball. And you really look at his weapons, when his weapons compared to everybody else in the NFL is lesser than. If you think about Josh Allen, the weapons that he has, like we just talked about Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook. If you look at Patrick Mahomes, his team isn't as good this year, but he still has Travis Kelce. He still has Tooney. I know like he's not playing well, but he's still a really good receiver. When you look at the Dolphins, Tua has literally everything you need, but CJ Stroud didn't have any of that. And then going into this season, a lot of people didn't see that they're going to be a good team. And CJ, he's producing really well. He understands how to give everybody the ball. And to me, I think that's the reason, and I'm going to double down on what I said, that I feel that he should have went number 1 instead of going number 2, because he sits in the pocket. He doesn't run around. He doesn't do all the extra stuff. Like he had to score a running touchdown today, but he runs when he needs to run. A lot of quarterbacks run when they want to run because they feel a little bit of pressure. He sits in the pocket and he makes excellent throws to his guys. And if he continue to play at the level that he's playing right now, 15 touchdowns, second in the league in passing, and only 2 interceptions, that's least in the league right now. Man, I could definitely see him having an MVP in his hands.
Listen, I don't think anybody in mid-November is going to push back at what you just said there. My question is, I guess, and you go back to the last game of the regular season in 2022, Lovie Smith and company score that last second touchdown that knocked the Texans out of the number 1 overall spot. Everybody thought Lovie Smith had just screwed the franchise for a generation there. Why was there such a collective? I mean, there was not a lot of Stroud is better than Bryce talk from all the draft analysts on down last spring. Why do you suppose that was?
Because everybody is so enamored by people's athletic abilities. I love me as a player, but I was a late first rounder, mid second rounder. I knew like worst case scenario, I was going second round. The moment I ran a 4.3, I was a guaranteed lock in the first round. Just because I ran a 4.3, like the Steelers already said, they said I could have ran a 4.5. They was going to draft me in the first round. I already knew, like they already knew that, but it opened up doors for more opportunities. People love just height, weight, speed. They love all that. They love the ability, all the extra ability. When you look at quarterbacks, and this guy, Caleb Williams, is the best quarterback that's coming out. But if you look at quarterbacks, him, Drake May, Michael Penix, the other two just sit in the pocket, dice you up, and they run when they need to. Caleb runs all over the place, and he's the next coming to Patrick Mahomes, but they want everybody to be the next Patrick Mahomes. And that's why Zach Wilson's the way he is right now. That's why Bryce Young is struggling right now, because they have to run for their life, and they're not doing what a quarterback is paid $50 million to do. Sit in the pocket and get it to the CeeDee Lambs of the world, the Tyreek Hills of the world, get it to the Stephon Diggs of the world. And I feel that CJ does a really good job of that, but he also minimizes turnovers. Like, he's really good at, hey, I'm not throwing a bunch of interceptions, but I'm going to make sure you guys get the ball.
It remains a bit of a mystery, though, because you just checked off the things that scouts are looking for. Bryce Young does not meet the height requirement. I do wonder if we'll look back in 5 or 10 years and think about whether or not that is a factor. Russell Wilson and Drew Brees added up to a changing of perception of what sort of stature a quarterback had to have. I do think ultimately it takes a special talent to overcome not being able to see over the line of scrimmage. Interesting stuff, though, just the same. Meantime, I want to talk about the Steelers and, more accurately, the the Steelers fans out there. The team is 6-3. They are rolling despite all their wins pretty much coming by one score, and it doesn't make a difference if it's coming against a good AFC team or a lousy one. The script remains the same. Everything seems to land in the teens in terms of final scores, and the Steelers seem to come out on the right side of the ledger way more often than not. Steelers fans very upset about Kenny Pickett, about the offensive coordinator, so on and so forth. Where do you come down on this, Shazier? What do you make of these Pittsburgh Steelers? And you can't just obsess about the tree. You got to see the whole forest out there. Where does this Steelers team stack up in this mighty AFC?
Most people are going to think, hey, Ryan, you're just a homer. But when you think about and watch how the Steelers play football.
I've heard you on Ohio State, so yes.
Hey, you can hate all you want. You're going to give me that money at the end of the year. So the thing is, most people, when they think about the Steelers, they're like, your offense sucks. You're not a good team. You guys are ugly, da-da-da-da-da. But when you really think about football, what is the quote that we've been hearing ever since we've been kids? Defense wins championships. Defense wins championships.
I didn't know what cliche you were going to go with. Yeah. I was going to invoke a Bill Parcells classic. You are what your record says you are. Yeah. That's a pretty good one, too.
That is, too. And then I've been seeing something on social media lately. It shows the Dolphins at 6-3, and they look like Tiger Woods, while the Steelers are what, John Daly? Yeah, and they're 6-3. And it's like, hey, one looks pretty and the other one doesn't, but it's like, hey, we're winning. You know? So to me, I think the thing that's so important about the Steelers, if you come down and play the way they play, and I'm not saying come down because they're not playing to your competition, but if the Steelers play the ball the way that they want to play, you're going to end up in situations where you're going to lose a lot of the times, because the Steelers understand how to play the field position. And this is what Dave talks about a lot. They play the field position game, and then they bank on the defense making turnovers, which they have been doing all season. And one thing that Kenny, he has to work on this. He has to work on this because the first quarter through the third quarter, you would take pretty much 20 out of the 30 quarterbacks in the NFL over Kenny. But in the fourth quarter, it's probably 2 or 3 quarterbacks you'd be like, I don't know if I'm taking them over Kenny. Because in the fourth quarter, he understands how to win games, and the defense understands how to lock down, and that's exactly how the Steelers want to play ball. The biggest problem, though, is if somebody jump out on them like the Texans or the 49ers, that's when things look ugly. But if you can't score on them immediately and you let this game stay within 10 points, that's when the game is very up in the air. The Jaguars game, that was a close game. There was a lot of bad penalties. There was a lot of bad calls. They took points off the board for the Steelers. And you go back, Kenny was hurt in the fourth quarter, and they were only down by 7 in the fourth, and then things started turning around and they ended up losing by 10. But Kenny was hurt the whole second half. If Kenny's available, we don't know what happens. So to me, I think this is a team they don't pass the eye test at all. They don't pass the eye test at all. But when you go to look at football and how you win games by defense and field position. If you go back to like the rules of football, it's defense and field position, not, my quarterback could throw for 5,000 yards in a season.
You know, it's interesting, but I do think it's fair to address what the cynics would say, that this brand of ball, which is what Kenny Pickett is doing, taking care of the ball throughout the game and coming through in the biggest spots, that's winning football even in 2023 in the quarterback league. But is the ceiling on this making the playoffs, not making some hay once you get there? The pushback is, who's this team capable of really beating a high-end football team in the AFC? Let me just say I don't mean to ask that question rhetorically, but let me just say, okay, I don't want to go to Arrowhead. No one else does either. They have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid after all. Miami is playing a different kind of football right now, and the whole league doesn't know what to do with it. After that, who's so scary that the Steelers can't compete with them for 60 minutes, whether it's a playoff game or not? How say you on that?
When you look at the Chiefs this year, they're not winning because of offense. They're winning because of defense. And that's what people fail to realize. Patrick Mahomes is that guy. Yeah, he's that guy. But they're winning because of defense, because their defense is number one in the league right now. Pat has not played with a number one defense, a top 10 defense, I think, until this year, until they figure things out in the playoffs. But he hasn't played with a top 10 defense, and now he's playing with a top 10 defense, the number one defense in the league. The Steelers aren't scared of, they're not scared of playing those top tier defenses because everybody already going into the games like, hey, we're not expecting these guys to score a lot of points. The teams that are scary to the Steelers is a team that can score a lot of points and can run them down on you really fast. And if they can slow that down from you, and then now you both playing just, hey, let's play defense, that's when the Steelers are going to show up. And then now Kenny, the whole game, he's been figuring you out. And in the fourth quarter, with 4 minutes left, he scores a touchdown. I don't know how he does it, but he constantly does it. And most people say that's not sustainable. You can't continue to do that. He's done it for 14 straight weeks. Like, how does it, like,
right? The coin keeps coming up heads. How much am I supposed to argue against that at this point? Well, it's going to eventually go against them. I don't know. What I am not saying to anybody is as a Steelers fan myself, I am not saying you have to do it because you owe it to them and this is your team and are you loyal? None of that jive. I'm saying from a practical standpoint, there are different ways to skin the cat. They are trying to bully ball their way through the quarterback league. Imperfect as it is, shooting it out with Patrick Mahomes in January is not a better method for the Steelers making hay in January, and that's my 2 cents on that.
Think about this. Think about this right now. Everybody said the Steelers are not good. They don't like how they play. If the Steelers continue to play ball the way they're playing right now, they're literally one game out of first place. One game.
Well, good little Steelers talk there from a guy who's up close and personal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And up next, let's move on from that team and from Ryan Shazier's Ohio State Buckeyes. I have mentioned before, and I think you have too, you like Ohio State. Let's talk about their arch rival. The team from up north, I think is what you like to call them. They finally beat a good team last Saturday. Let's see how Buckeyes faithful are feeling about that. Jim Harbaugh, all of it. More gut check right after the break. All right, back on Gridiron Gut Check. More topics from NFL action this week and college football. Like I mentioned, Michigan beat Penn State without Harbaugh. I don't think it's a small matter that James Franklin was across the field from them on the other sideline, but we'll leave that alone. Harbaugh's team, without him there, still took care of business, and as far as we know, no cheating, no need to throw the ball. Harbaugh suspended for 2 more games, but should Ohio State still be scared to face what Harbaugh has tabbed America's team, even without their coach? How say you, 5-0?
So first of all, with Harbaugh saying this is America's team, that is a joke. This man is trolling the whole world right now because you can't compare yourself. Obviously, Dallas is America's team because everybody got to watch. But everybody know the reason Dallas is America's team.
That's also foolishness too. We'll talk about that at a later date. Okay,
but the
go
thing
ahead.
is, he's trying to say they're going through adversity, this, and that. It's like, no, you got caught, and now you guys are in trouble. Everybody doesn't care, but I do feel Ohio State needs to be worried about this team. And the reason I say that they need to be worried about this team is because this is a good team. Everybody, the whole season, everybody's been watching them, watching Georgia. And the first 2 things that they were saying is these 2 teams have not played anybody. Georgia hasn't played anybody. Michigan hasn't played anybody. Now they're starting to play people. Georgia's starting to show people, hey, we're still Georgia. And Michigan is showing people, hey, we're still Michigan. Then obviously Georgia's still beating people by 30 points. Michigan, the games are a lot closer, but Michigan literally in this game inserted their dominance. The one thing that really throws me off a lot is Penn State when it comes to their offense, because Ohio State and Michigan, when it came to Penn State and their offense, they could not figure anything out. So, but it shows that Michigan has a really solid defense and that they have a really strong run game, which everybody knew that they had. But there is a lot of things that they have to worry about Ohio State when it comes to this team up north. But there are some things that the team up north have struggled with. Like when you watch the Penn State game, they were not able to throw the ball effectively, and they were constantly getting after CJ McCarthy. So if that's something that Ohio State can do, then they have to understand that means Michigan's going to lean on the run. And then if they jump out in front, now Michigan has to come back. The situation where Ohio State doesn't need to be in is they get put behind, and then now Michigan's just going to run the clock all game. And that's not a good situation. So I think this is going to be a really good game. It's probably going to be 2 versus 3 because I definitely think Georgia's probably going to move up in the rankings. I know that they come out on Tuesday, but I think this is going to be a really good game. I really think that it's the game. Everybody is waiting to watch it, and we're just going to see how it turn out. But I definitely think.
Oh, listen. The back and forth after all this, before it broke, Spygate 2, the college edition, all of that, the floating of the idea of Jim Harbaugh replacing Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, friends with Jim Harbaugh by virtue of Michigan, it all aligned so beautifully. But if you, from an Ohio State POV, do not beat the Wolverines with Jim Harbaugh not in the stadium, on his couch somewhere, I don't even know what to tell you. I don't know how you come back from that as an Ohio State fan. But yes, of course, it's going to be a grand game, but the rivalry remains supreme because of all the off-field histrionics from both sides of things. Very funny stuff. I enjoy it a great deal. That's it for my big takeaways and Shazier's responses for this week. Let's get to some quick hitters. It's time to roll out the nickel package. 5 questions, 5 answers, 5-0. Are you ready?
Let's get it.
All right. If the Cowboys don't win the NFC, I suspect, and probably a lot of other people do too, that'll be it for Mike McCarthy. Who would you submit as a replacement for McCarthy?
It's crazy to me that they're saying, hey, if they don't win the AFC in the NFC, that they need to get rid of the coach. Their roster is stacked. I do agree their roster is stacked. But there's also other stacked rosters in the NFC. But to me, McCarthy is the fifth most winningest coach that out of active coaches. The only people that's in front of him is Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, Carroll, and Coach Tomlin. Think about that. Everybody else on that list are going to the Hall of Fame, and McCarthy might be going to the Hall of Fame as well.
I can give you some healthy pushback on that, though. He's had high-end teams, and he has been successful, and that is definitely something to not gloss over in the NFL. If you are the head man and your teams are consistent winners, great. But Jerry Jones, we know his profile. In fact, I think he's been pretty laid back about letting McCarthy go and go and go.
Out of all those teams, out of all those coaches, who haven't had those teams? All those coaches had those teams. All of them. Tomlin had Ben, Carroll had Russell Wilson, Andy Reid.
Russ, I get it all.
Andy Reid had Mahomes. He had McNabb. Bill Belichick has the GOAT. It's like, come on, man. But to me, if they do replace
McCarthy's had Aaron Rodgers. McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying.
Those are good QBs.
I know. I agree. All of them had great players and great teams. So you can't use that as an excuse why he's not a great coach. But to me, because a lot of great coaches fumble the bag consistently. And I don't feel like he constantly fumbling the bag. I just think that, those teams are beating them in those situations. But if they do
one Super Bowl, man, one Super Bowl, that ain't, you could say the same thing about Tomlin. He's at least been to 2.
Yeah, you can say that about Carroll too. But so the thing is, I think if you let him go as Dallas Cowboys, you have to bring in somebody that is just as good or better than him. Because you can't go to, let me go get, the Lions coordinator, or let me go get, somebody else's coordinator. No, you need somebody that's a win now mentality. And with coordinators, you don't know who has the win now mentality. So the only person I can see that's going to replace him is probably like a Jim Harbaugh. Because Jim Harbaugh is going to get suspended by the NCAA. I don't know when, but he's going to get suspended by the NCAA. And if it doesn't carry over to the NFL, I can definitely see Jerry Jones going to get Jim. Jim's been to a Super Bowl. He had a winning team. It's just the lights blacked out on him. So we're just going to have to see. I really think that this is an opportunity that Jim can go back to the pros, and he's going to have a team that's already ready to win a Super Bowl.
You might be right because of the profile of the Dallas Cowboys, but you couldn't do any better than Ben Johnson, the OC up in Detroit right now, if you're Dallas or otherwise, to fill your head coaching gig for 24.
You don't know how good of a head coach he's going to be. He's a great coordinator.
I agree.
But you don't know how good he's going to be as a head coach. And
fair.
So to me, but what Jim Harbaugh is going to bring you.
Trouble. That's what he's going to bring me. Some wins as well. Next, Jimbo Fisher. Not a lot of wins. $76 million just to show him the door so he doesn't have to be down there in College Station anymore. What about the buzz of Deion leaving Colorado and moving down to A&M?
To me, I just think that the fact that Deion just got to Colorado, I just don't see him leaving because he just established like him there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he made Colorado prime. You know what I'm saying? Like he made like the Buffalo relevant. Obviously, they're not winning no tournament, nothing right now. But
that was a great couple weeks in September. What he did.
No,
there.
I'm saying, but he brought a lot of money. He's still bringing a lot of attention.
I get it.
To
I
me,
know.
and then he's gonna like if he stays there, I think he's gonna start bringing in the recruits when it comes to the O lineman and the D lineman. But when you think about how much money that Texas A&M will probably offer Deion to come there, then he's going to already have the O lineman, already have the D lineman. And then also they have a top 5 recruiting class right now and their coach just got fired. So if he goes in there, gets that recruiting class, then brings his Louis Vuitton luggage, like he likes to say, my luggage is Louis, and he brings his luggage with him, I think that that's going to be a great atmosphere. To me, though, that is going to be a huge culture shock to everybody that goes there. Like when it comes to the Texas A&M side and when it comes to Deion and the culture that he's bringing there. Those cultures don't clash that well together. And to me, I think, you know, if you're going to bring Deion and offer him this much money, you can't try to tell him how to run his program. And that's the only thing that I think is going to be the issue. But SEC ball, Deion, and he brings his luggage, I think he can start making some real noise in College Station.
Color me skeptical. After the first couple of weeks there, hasn't been great returns in Colorado, but it still was a remarkable turnaround for a little while. I get they didn't have the roster.
He doesn't have the roster. Like, what do you want him to do?
I get it. I'm allowed to make my jokes. Let's move on. Josh Dobbs, I mean, remarkable stuff here, reviving the Vikings just like he did Arizona for a little while earlier in the season. Wherever he goes, he seems to be an X factor in a good way for the team. Can he take them as Justin Jefferson now comes off of the IR? Can he actually drag this Vikings team to the playoffs?
Yeah, he definitely could drag this Vikings team to the playoffs. They're 6-4 now. They're 6-4. They have a good record. They're not that far up. Like obviously, they're not winning their division. The Lions are starting to pull away. You know, I ain't gonna say pull away because they can still lose games, but
they're game ahead only.
Yeah,
right?
Because they're 2 games ahead. 2 games ahead. But it just, to me, I just think that the Lions are just too good of a football team for them to pull away. But when you look at how they're playing compared to all the other teams that's on the bubble in the playoffs in the NFC, if they was in the AFC, I don't think they will make it. In the NFC, I think this is a really solid chance for them to make it. And Josh is a good quarterback. He almost took Tennessee to the playoffs last year, and Tennessee didn't have the roster. And now he's actually on the team with the roster, and he has a real opportunity to play quarterback where people believe in him and think that he can win them games. Because they gave him the playbook this week, and he went out there and had an amazing game. So if he can continue to do that, I think that he can continue to push this Vikings team into the playoffs. And the thing is, a lot of people say, I'm going to say this about the Steelers and I'm going to say this about the Vikings. What they're doing right now is not sustainable. If you're not getting a bye, or you're not getting a home field advantage. Even if you're getting a home field advantage, the biggest thing is just getting to the playoffs. Just give us a chance. And that's what a lot of people fail to realize. When we got to the playoffs, the year that we lost to Denver, we just wanted to get into the playoffs. We end up winning the first game. Then we end up going to Denver. And then we end up losing to Peyton Manning. And it was a lot of stuff going on. I don't want to talk about that game, but I definitely felt like we should have won that game. But we weren't we won in Cincinnati at their house. We were up on
without Antonio Brown, bad fumble in the fourth quarter, or the Steelers play in the title game at Foxborough once again. Yeah. That might have been a little bit of a nightmare. I do think it's an interesting point you make about the Vikings making the playoffs because the standard is a little lower there on that side of the ledger. It is top heavy, some real heavyweights in the NFC, the big 3 being the Niners, Eagles, and Lions right now. After that, though, Very middle classy. So I think the Vikings absolutely could and maybe even should get in with the schedule they have remaining there. 1 week after you said the Ravens would win the AFC North, they dropped a heartbreaker to the Brownies, to the Cleveland Brownies. I'm going to give you a chance to change your pick here. Who's going to win the best division in football, 5-0?
So last week, based off of what I seen, I said the Ravens. Based off of what I just seen again, I'm going to say the Steelers. And the reason I say the Steelers is because the Ravens, when you watch them play, they can beat pretty much everybody in the league because most teams, especially teams in the NFC, they're not used to playing against Lamar. He goes out there and goes crazy on them. Versus teams in our division, we're going to start beating up on each other. But the one thing about our division, when you kind of look back at it, Coach Tomlin has the MO on everybody. Like, he understands how to play all of them. Everybody, it might not look pretty, but he understands how to play all of them. So if the game stays close, he finds a way to win. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this week, when we play the Browns, they're gonna probably win 19-22, like 22-19, like some ugly score.
Who's going to win 19-22?
The Steelers. Like, they're going to win.
Oh, they are. Oh, that's good news for me. I like that. I like watching that thing.
Everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Our offense can't move the ball. Oh my gosh, here we go. Pick. Here we go. We're making progress. We're making progress. Pick another one. Oh, we kick a field goal. Boswell, he's going to probably score about 15 points. Go down there, score a touchdown with Jalen Warren or Najee. We up 22, and the Browns just can't get into the end zone. If Minka's available, Joey's showing that he catches picks, KZ shows that he's catching picks, man, you have a really strong chance.
Well, the Steelers, if you're harking all the way back to week 2, Nick Chubb went out. It looked early on like Chubb was going to truck him all night long. Then a massive injury, not just in that game, but for the AFC North, for the AFC in general. Nick Chubb going out for the season there. Yeah. Nevertheless, I think that this one really, in a big way, the Browns have still been able to run the ball behind that great O-line of theirs, but they do have problems at tackle. That is going to be an issue, obviously, with Watt and Highsmith there. And beware, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but watch number 95 in the black and gold, everybody. Keanu Benton, the rookie, along with Cam Hayward now back, really creating a lot of inside pressure. No one wants to see that with those two guys coming at you from either side. I think that is a major factor in this one. And obviously, in every Steelers game going forward, that is a nightmare to deal with no matter what quarterback you are. Patrick Mahomes on down. The knee-biting Lions are second in the NFC. Shazier, here's a question I don't think I've ever said out loud before. Are the Detroit Lions Super Bowl contenders?
They're definitely Super Bowl contenders. And because, first of all, they have the best O-line in the NFL. And then they have the mentality, when you think of just playing ball, it's like a Steeler type of mentality. But they score way more points. And what I mean by that is that they understand it doesn't matter what the game looks like. We just need to come out with the win. But their offense is playing so dynamic because of their O-line. Jared Goff can sit in there, throw the ball to open guys. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they're able to run it wherever they want to run it. But when it comes to just biting down close games, we know how to figure out how to get this win no matter what. It doesn't matter how we win this game. We're gonna win it. And that's what Dan Campbell meant when he said we're going to go in there and bite at people's kneecaps. And everybody thought it was funny, but it's like, no, we're about to go in there and win games. We don't care how they look. We don't care if they're ugly. We don't care if they're pretty. We're going to go in there and win games. And that's what they're doing right now. And to me, having that type of mindset, but also having an offense that can put a lot of points on the board, that shows you that's the recipe for winning the Super Bowl.
Let me tell you something. I like to celebrate me. A little bit here. And so I'm going to do that right now. You said the Lions are playing Steelers ball. I would amend that and say they're playing Philadelphia Eagles ball. I pat myself on the back here because 2 years ago I said this is where the NFL was headed. Not like the Kansas City Chiefs serving as rabbit with everybody. And you'll remember that 3 to 5 years ago, the notion was we got to figure out how to shoot it out with Mahomes and company. They're going to get into the 30s. If we don't do that, we're cooked. I think in Instead, the reverse has happened. The Chiefs, as you mentioned, more ball control, field positions type of stuff. Necessarily, the defense has emerged there in KC, and Philadelphia and Detroit have higher end offenses than Pittsburgh has. And really, when I mentioned the heavyweights in the NFC, they all three play a similar brand. Bully ball is what it's based on. Niners, Lions, and Eagles. I think that's what's breaking through in 2023 in a big way, transcending just Philadelphia. It really is a winning method across most towns you can think about in pro football. I'm doing that off the top of my head. I mean, there are very few examples of teams winning by virtue of finesse. I guess you could look at the Dolphins as an example there, but bully ball is working here. And you know what, Shazier? That's it for another episode of Gut Check. I enjoyed this one. How say you?
No, I definitely enjoyed it. So make sure to follow, rate, and review the show on wherever you're listening. Check us out on YouTube and make sure to go to the Wondery channel. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss no episodes. Hey, Gut Check listeners, quick programming announcement. Shek and I will be taking off next week to be celebrating Thanksgiving with our families. Unfortunately, we're going to leave our guts at the gate because they're going to be too heavy to fly. But we'll see you all on December 1st. So from Gut Check to you all, have a great holiday.